Hello guys, welcome back. In the previous video, now in previous video we have discussed about what is the way that Vamshi is chosen to overcome the problems and provide the services for the client. That is Vamshi, friend Sai. For Sai, this Vamshi is provided the solutions. Now, in previous video, Vamshi decided to move towards AWS cloud, right? Yeah, and maintain all his data centers in cloud only, right? Yeah. So Umshi put his all data centers in cloud only. He assumes to put all his data centers in cloud only. So let's have a small question. Let's have a small question. The question is, the question is, what do we call? What do we call the arrangement? What do we call the arrangement? What do we call the arrangement of whole data center? Whole whole data center in on-premise, on premises, or you can say in cloud also. What do we call that whole data center arrangement? What do we call that arrangement, sir? We call that arrangement of whole data center as infrastructure. What is that? Infrastructure. Okay. Now, what is the Umsi's task? Umsi want to put his whole infrastructure in AWS. So now AWS need to provide the whole infrastructure for Umsi, or else let me say if I want to put my whole data center infrastructure in AWS, then when it is possible, whenever AWS is providing me the whole infrastructure service development, then only I can able to develop, or else in other words we can say the development as deploy. I can deploy my whole infrastructure in AWS only when AWS is providing me the infrastructure, right? So if now let us say now AWS is providing me this whole infrastructure for me to maintain my data center, right? Yeah. So what do I call this AWS, sir? What do I call this AWS? Since it is providing me the infrastructure as service, right? So AWS is providing me the infrastructure as infrastructure as a service. So who is providing this infrastructure as a service? AWS. Who is providing me, sir? AWS is providing me this whole infrastructure as service to me to create whole my to create whole infrastructure of my on-premise on cloud. So can I say this AWS infrastructure as service? In short, we call it as IaaS, right? Yeah, we can say AWS as infrastructure as service, because why? AWS is providing me the whole infrastructure to maintain my data center in cloud, right? Yeah. So AWS is a infrastructure as service that is in cloud, that is in cloud services. We call this infrastructure as service as, in short, as IaaS, right? Yeah. So can I call this AWS as IaaS? Yes. So This is why we call this AWS as infrastructure as service. So I hope you understood why. Why do we, why do we say this AWS is an infrastructure as a service model, deployment model? This is nothing but infrastructure as a service is a deployment model in cloud. Deployment model. This is one of the deployment model of cloud. So I will introduce you one by one deployment models in the next followed future sessions. So now you have learned what is the infrastructure. What is infrastructure? Infrastructure is nothing but the arrangement of whole data center in the arrangement of whole data center, we call it as infrastructure. Either the arrangement in on-premise or the arrangement of your whole data center in cloud, wherever it may be, we call that arrangement as that whole setup as infrastructure. So since AWS is providing me the whole infrastructure as service, that's why I'm saying this AWS as infrastructure as service. So that's why we call it this AWS as in short IaaS, and this is one of the deployment model. I hope you understood what is infrastructure and what is why AWS is called as infrastructure as service model, and you understood this infrastructure as service deployment model in this video. So let us continue with some more technical terms in the next video. I hope you understood this video. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.